pressure inside would just lift the lid off. That's 1,000 pounds of force propelling the lid upward. And the contents would spontaneously boil. It's an eruption. It's similar to a volcano. Those carbon dioxide bubbles expand and just throw the lava everywhere.
So once we had this additional clue, this mystery that hadn't quite yet been solved, we could not turn down this case. We had a responsibility to that child to run that down. So what do we do to run it down? We went back to the kitchen, we looked at all the photos, and it suddenly became clear. Pressure cookers aren't allowed to open. They have to lock under pressure. So they can only open when the pressure's gone. There was food on the ceiling. There was food high on the walls. There was water on the ground. This thing had opened under pressure and all that stuff had shot out, erupted onto the ceiling. I knew it. At that moment, I knew it. We went back to the experts. They said that didn't happen because it couldn't have happened. That did happen because I know it happened. Figure out how, because I know it happened. We dead-ended for a while until we had to fire those experts and do it ourselves. And luckily we had Roland because we were able to start our own testing project without experts.
Our own testing started because we weren't getting answers from the engineers. First, we wanted to test one thing. In this case, she had changed out the rubber seal, the gasket. The grandmother had replaced it because it's a replaceable part. So the first level was, did she put in the wrong seal, right? Could that have explained why it opened? We had to prove that it didn't to ourselves, to set aside a defense. Okay, so that the gasket was not the problem. What's next?
Isn't this dangerous?
Yeah, of course it's dangerous. I mean, look at Samantha and look at what the pressure cooker did to her. There's heat, there's pressure, there's boiling liquid. Yeah, it's dangerous. But it was worth it. It was something we had to do.
One time the pressure cooker kind of launched because there's a side valve, pressure relief, and the pressure started relieving out the side, and it launched and started spinning around and almost knocked somebody in the head. At this point, we had to stop and say, we still don't have a case. We're spending a fortune, and this is getting dangerous. Are we going to keep doing this? We said, we got to find a way. We have to find a way to do this safely. We came up with the idea of doing this testing without introducing heat and pressure. That was what created the danger. If you activated the pressure cooker lock, which normally heat and pressure activates it, but if we find a different way to activate it, we just mechanically put a little device in there that you could activate by Bluetooth with a phone. All the exemplars still worked perfectly. When it's locked, they couldn't open. But that was a breakthrough because you couldn't introduce heat and pressure to the actual subject pressure cooker because that's evidence and you can't do anything that might alter it. But we could put a little Bluetooth device on the actual subject pressure cooker, activate the lock and see what happens. But we did that and guess what? It opened. What? Let's try that again. Activate the lock. It's impossible to open, our experts said that, and it opens. That subject pressure cooker is different than the exemplars. Here's the truth. When they manufactured that pressure cooker, first few years, one of the parts in the lock was the wrong size.
There was a little part, the lock bar. If you take it out and you compare it to a lock bar of the right size, there's about an 8mm difference. That 8mm difference made the difference between whether the lid stayed locked or not locked under pressure. As the pressure is dropping, there comes a point where the friction is low enough that the lid can open. And yet the pressure inside is still high enough that when it opens, the contents erupt.
And so the lock is not a lock. They figured it out. And so they fixed it for all future models, but they didn't do a recall and they didn't tell the government. Then, in our case, they gave us exemplars that were after the fix. This was one of the most devious corporate cover-ups that I have ever seen. They came within an inch of getting away with it.
A corporate killer is an organization, a company that knows what they're doing kills people and does it anyways.
For Samantha, I'd say her very life was at stake, but certainly her future. Was she going to have a hellhole of a life, or was she going to have a chance at some real happiness? But no recall.